Diesel particulate is a large contributor to human health problems.
We'd like to determine how the air quality varies within the Burrard Inlet area.
We're providing tools to engage that local economy in measuring and then reducing their greenhouse gas emissions.
Welcome to the Sustainable Region. I'm Vanessa Timmer.
And I'm Dagmar Timmer.
Today, our show looks at something that links us all with every breath, the air. It's essential for life, so quality is important.
Well, with 2.2 million people living and working in Metro Vancouver, air contaminants are released from thousands of sources every day. Emission sources range from vehicles and household furnaces to small businesses and large-scale industrial operations.
Diesel emissions are a significant source of pollutants. Our first story looks at diesel emissions that come from off-road vehicles and the difference regulations can make. Moving the tunnel liners for the Seymour Capilano filtration plant demands a big machine. In order to meet the challenge, Metro Vancouver has adapted a log stacker. It's a rig that served many years' duty in the logging industry.
This machine's 17 years old approximately, so it can go another 17 with good maintenance.
The Lower Mainland has good air quality, and Metro Vancouver's Air Quality Management Plan has set clear strategies to keep improving the air we breathe. Recently, Metro Vancouver committed to reducing their own diesel particulate emissions by 75% by 2012. Diesel is the primary source of fine particulates in the region and poses serious health risks.
70% of that increased risk of cancer from air pollution can be attributed to diesel exhaust. There are other sources of air pollution, but that's the single most important source that contributes to our increased risk of cancer.
It is only recently that research has demonstrated the impact that fine particulates have on human health.
Health officials now are much more concerned about those very fine particulates because we know that they can get deep into the lungs because they escape the normal mechanisms of clearance of the human body, and because a lot of studies have now shown they're associated with both short-term serious health effects but also long-term effects such as risk for lung cancer.
Diesel is not only a source of fine particulates, but chemicals such as benzene and formaldehyde. The particulates act as a delivery mechanism.
It may even be the combination of those fine particulates and those other cancer-causing chemicals, because those can absorb on the surface of the fine particulates. And when they're absorbed in the lung, they can then get into the bloodstream and have their effects.
But the primary source of these diesel fine particulates is not the vehicles you see on the road. Modern emission standards mean that road vehicles are extremely clean. It is non-road vehicles that are the problem, and due to the longevity of these vehicles, it is a problem that isn't going away soon.
The thing about diesel machines is they can be rebuilt and they can last for 30 years or more, no problem at all.
This longevity means that non-road diesel engines won't be replaced quickly, and some regulation will be needed to protect public health.
The only regulations that exist are for emissions from new machines, and unfortunately most of the equipment that is being used in the constructions and other industrial sectors is old, and a lot of it predates any emission standards whatsoever.
Diesel emissions come from many sources, but marine and non-road engines are the biggest contributors in the Metro Vancouver region. 41% of diesel particulate matter comes from non-road engines. 43% comes from marine engines. Rail and road diesel engines each contribute 8%. But due to the proximity of non-road engines to people, this source of diesel is the greatest threat to human health. Marine diesel is being addressed by federal agencies, but the jurisdiction for non-road vehicles lies with Metro Vancouver.
For something like the non-road sector, it makes sense for Metro Vancouver to have its own emission regulations because of the density of emissions and the density of people at risk.
But any regulatory approach will begin with consultations with industry. There are a number of ways to improve the emissions from existing diesel engines. Metro Vancouver's log stacker has been retrofitted with a diesel oxidation catalyst, which reduces particulate matter and chemicals. Diesel filters can also be added to existing machines, reducing emissions by 95%. As well, repowering or replacing old engines means the new engines will meet modern emission standards. Regulations will be needed to encourage the use of these technologies. Two of the goals of Metro Vancouver's Air Quality Management Plan are to minimize our contribution to global climate change and minimizing the risk to public health.
Diesel emissions are the most harmful air contaminant for human health. They adversely affect visibility, and in fact, black carbon from diesel is a significant contributor to climate change.
We just learned how off-road vehicles are major culprits when it comes to emitting fine particulates into the air. In our next story, we showcase another solution. Excavators that draw power from fuel and electricity is the hybrid vehicle approach, but off-road.
We're outside of Central Park in Burnaby, where Metro Vancouver crews are laying new water pipe, and we have several pieces of equipment. Why we're interested today is we're demonstrating a brand new diesel-electric hybrid excavator, the first of its kind in the world. It's very similar to a gasoline or diesel electric hybrid car. The difference is that a car, when it's slowing down, it converts its kinetic energy into potential energy in a battery. As an excavator, when it swings and it slows down the swing, it stores that energy in a capacitor. There's many advantages of a hybrid. One is it uses less fuel. It also, of course, will cut down greenhouse gas emissions because there's less fuel being burned, less carbon dioxide, and of course it has less diesel soot that's being emitted.
The amount of money that's being spent today on innovation and research in order to keep improving these machines is substantial, and the future looks good.
Diesel soot is responsible for more adverse health outcomes than all other air contaminants combined. The biggest source of diesel emissions is from what we call non-road equipment, not the trucks and buses on the road, but pieces of equipment like here, excavators.
Most machines, when they get a load, rev up so that they deliver more power. This one takes the power, the electrical power to add to give it the extra strength.
At Metro Vancouver, what we're trying to do to encourage the use of cleaner engines such as this one is to come up with a regulation that tips the playing field to advantage companies that do buy these cleaner pieces of equipment, and also set up a fund to help those that may not be able to afford it on their own purchase a cleaner emitting engine than they might otherwise be able to do. Metro is currently considering whether or not it makes sense to add one or more of these to our fleet. We see lots of advantages to having this type of equipment in our fleet.
Hello, I'm Dagmar Timmer for the Sustainable Region. Metro Vancouver is responsible for many aspects of air quality, creating long-term plans, controlling industrial, commercial, and some residential emissions, and monitoring.
The Air Quality Monitoring Network collects data every hour for specific locations in the Lower Fraser Valley, from the Strait of Georgia to Hope. And that data is available on the Metro Vancouver website, as well as other information about air quality in our region.
Our next story gives some insight into how monitoring takes place, in this case through a special study of the Burrard Inlet.
The shores of Burrard Inlet have attracted people for centuries. First Nations, European explorers, and settlers from around the world. Today, thousands of residents are here, and the shores host many industries and businesses. Covering the areas of West Vancouver and North Vancouver, the Tri-Cities and Vancouver, the quality of the air in this region is the responsibility of Metro Vancouver's Air Quality Division.
We have a lot of different emission sources in the area. We've got locomotives, marine vessels, port terminals, There's lots of different transportation sources in the area, like heavy-duty diesel vehicles and personal vehicles as well. There are lots of people living in this area. So we're trying to investigate the air quality and get a better handle on what people are being exposed to in this area. It is about a 2-year study. We'd like to determine how the air quality varies within the Burrard Inlet area and by season as well, because there are some sources that are only active during different seasons.
We know that the regional air quality is generally pretty good, but we recognize that there might be hot spots at localized, neighborhood or community levels. So with this special monitoring capability, we're able to really characterize the extent of an air quality problem, identify the sources that are contributing to the problem, and hopefully take actions to correct the problem.
The monitoring takes place at several sites around the inlet.
We have 4 particulate monitor sites that are for this project. We have 3 of them on the North Shore side and 1 on the Vancouver side. We also have another site at the Vancouver site at Pandora Park that we do particulate and gaseous monitoring. We also have a trailer that we rotate around to 4 different sites for the project. My job is to maintain the portable samplers that we have running. Once every 2 weeks to a month, I go out and service the samplers to make sure we're running good data. The technician's taking care of the instruments, they're calibrating the instruments continually, and then it goes through several sets of eyes to ensure the quality of the data.
One of the pollutants that we are concerned about is particulate matter that's less than 2.5 microns in diameter, and it actually can be inhaled deeply into the lungs. It has been associated with respiratory issues and cardiopulmonary issues. We are also very interested in diesel particulate matter because diesel is associated in this area with 67% of the lifetime cancer risk associated with air pollution.
We recognized that Burrard Inlet was an area that had a lot of diesel particulate sources, so this was a special study to provide us with better data on the extent of the problem.
Port Metro Vancouver has recognized early on that as a hub for industrial activity, that we actually are actually a generator of air quality emissions that have an impact on the environment and on the economy.
To measure in micron-size units, high-tech instruments are used. Tim describes the E-sampler.
We shoot a laser beam through the airstream, and the laser beam will scatter light based on how much particulate is in the airstream.
Another instrument features a vibrating glass head which changes its vibrations as particulates collect on a filter. Gases are also being monitored: sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, ozone, and oxides of nitrogen.
And those are more based towards the burning of petroleum and that from different sources. We also run temperature and relative humidity and the wind speed and wind direction. So if we pick up peaks of any type of parameter, it might aid in pinpointing what the source may be.
In general, we do have good air quality, but there is work that can be done.
We have a 2-pronged approach to reducing diesel emissions. One is providing a financial incentive program to ships to use cleaner fuel when in port, thereby reducing their diesel emissions. And the other part is to actually identify ways to use cleaner fuel and cleaner technology, both within ocean-going vessels and also within container handling equipment. A very good example of that is here at Canada Place. We have shore power for cruise ships that are coming into the port that can connect to the electric grid and thereby shutting down their main engines. That results in a greenhouse gas reduction as well as an elimination of diesel particulate and sulfur dioxide emissions.
If from the data that we get from a special study we're able to pinpoint what is the source that's contributing to the problem, we can take corrective action. So for example, if it's a source that's operating under a permit with Metro Vancouver, we have the authority to require mitigative measures. In other cases, if we identify that the problem is an entire category of sources, it may point the way to a new regulation or a new program, emission control program that deals with an entire category of sources.
Welcome back to the Sustainable Region. In today's show, we've shown how air pollutants affect regional air quality. But most of us are aware that they also have a role on the global stage, climate change.
That's right. Many people are taking personal steps towards change. Things like eating less meat, bringing their own cup, or taking public transit. But businesses also want to have a measurable impact. Our next story highlights one such process.
These business people are starting a training program that will help them understand how their small and medium-sized businesses generate greenhouse gases.
The data that you gather here today will help you, I hope, make some really good decisions and opportunities to reduce and reduce costs as well.
They are part of a pilot program that has seen 120 similar-sized businesses go through a carbon accounting process that for many has led to carbon-neutral status.
Individual consumers certainly are starting to ask businesses up and down the chain what they're doing.
80% of the local economy is small, mid-sized businesses. So we're providing tools and resources to engage that local economy in measuring and then reducing their greenhouse gas emissions.
We have kitchen waste, we have industrial kitchen waste.
Businesses map out what their business looks like. Do they have a fleet? Do they have facilities? Do they move product? Do they have paper? Where's their waste stream?
It was interesting to map it all out in a flow chart. When you break down the components in terms of energy consumption, you really take a lot for granted.
This program is right on track with Metro Vancouver's goal to lower greenhouse gas emissions in the region.
Metro Vancouver's Board of Directors adopted goals of 33% reduction of the region's greenhouse gas emissions from 2007 levels by 2020. It's ambitious, so it'll require a use of innovative new technologies, and it'll require changing our habits, the way we conduct our lives every day. They also set goals for 2050, which is an 80% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions for the entire region against 2007 levels. And this 80% reduction was adopted because of what we understand from scientists that we need to achieve in order to stabilize our climate.
The climate at this seniors' residence is fairly jovial. It's one of the buildings that its owner is putting through the Climate Smart program. The others are a hotel and a high-volume restaurant.
We quickly determined that our hotel is a hog when it comes to consuming natural gas. We're going to be looking at the kitchen operations. We have a lot of appliances in these kitchens. We've got overhead heaters for our patio that we intend on using year-round. The laundry equipment. We're going to be looking at the mechanical systems, some of the tools, and of course down the road we want to take a hard look at the buses that we use.
We can't underestimate the kind of leadership role that Metro Vancouver has played. Climate Smart partners with Metro Vancouver and 7 of its member municipalities, along with recruiting partners like the Board of Trade and the Chamber of Commerce to help bring businesses to this training program.
I think Climate Smart's program has been really effective in generating excitement and enthusiasm and getting actions rolling.
By having a tool like this that's being updated every month, we can look for variances right away and drill down on them. It takes the guesswork out of it.
Small and medium-sized businesses account for about 20% of the region's greenhouse gas emissions. And this is pretty significant if you consider that it's not a few large sources, it's thousands, tens of thousands of sources scattered across our region. We wanted to reduce that cost barrier and make it more accessible to the small and medium-sized enterprises. So we wanted to get beyond the early adopters to more mainstream businesses.
It was about $1,000, and that's putting through 3 facilities with 3 teams. So I think, considering that our gas bill in the wintertime in each building is $5,000, I think it's well worth it.
We'd like to see every single business in this region aware of their greenhouse gas impact and incorporating that into their business practice.
My only comment would be, what are you waiting for? It's a no-brainer.
The atmosphere around our planet contains many different gases called greenhouse gases. These gases affect the temperature of our planet. They act as a blanket, trapping heat from the sun and making life on our planet possible. Methane and carbon dioxide are two of these gases. Human activity has caused a dramatic rise in these gases, making the blanket around our planet thicker, trapping more heat around the Earth, and causing global temperature to rise. One of the ways methane is created is by food waste trapped in a landfill. Methane is much stronger than carbon dioxide and is a direct result of organic waste being disposed of improperly. This is called anaerobic composting. It is a slow and inefficient process with materials at the bottom taking a long time to break down and producing harmful gases like methane during the process. Another type of composting is aerobic composting. This type of composting uses oxygen to speed up the process, and when the aerobic bacteria have done their job, you are left with healthy soil and no harmful gases. You can help reduce greenhouse gases by composting at home or using the recycling program in your area. Also, try to plan ahead when you shop and cook to create less food waste.
Learn about zero waste initiatives and success stories. Plan to attend the Metro Vancouver Zero Waste Challenge Conference, March 10th in Burnaby. Businesses, NGOs, government, youth, and the community at large. Collaborate on strategies and actions to minimize waste and increase reuse. Get free registration online at metrovancouver.org.
Welcome back. You're watching The Sustainable Region, a program that looks at the successes and challenges in the Metro Vancouver region. Today we're talking about pollutants in our atmosphere, including greenhouse gases. So here's one thing you can do to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, and it involves your garbage.
The way your garbage decomposes makes a big difference to the environment. Organic materials that are composted in the presence of oxygen create carbon dioxide. But if they decompose in a landfill, the byproduct is methane.
When you bury plant materials in the dump, they generate methane gas, which is an enormously powerful greenhouse gas.
Methane and carbon dioxide, or CO2, are both greenhouse gases, but methane remains in the atmosphere for 9 to 15 years and is over 20 times more effective in trapping heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. What is the link between methane and landfills? The answer lies in the type of organisms that do the work of decomposing.
When plant material like food scraps or your yard scraps go to the dump, they get sealed inside plastic bags, they get buried under feet and feet and feet of other garbage, and they don't get oxygen to them, so they break down anaerobically, which is the stinky sort of rot. It generates methane and can help speed climate change.
Bacteria are all around us, and they come in two forms, aerobic and anaerobic. Anaerobic bacteria consume organic materials, but die if they come in contact with oxygen. They can be found in oxygen-free places like bogs and swamps, and in stomachs, animal hooves, and in landfills. For these anaerobic bacteria, their waste product is methane. But a banana or a carrot peel that goes into a compost system gets consumed by aerobic organisms, that is, bacteria that thrive in oxygen.
When you do it in your backyard composter or you do it in a big windrow composting system, it breaks down aerobically in the presence of oxygen, and all you do is get the CO2 out that went into the plant when it was grown.
This commonly happens in nature, as droppings from animals and trees are usually in contact with oxygen. Landfills are among the top 3 sources of methane. In 2009 in Metro Vancouver, about 40% of residential waste could have been composted. Composting can be fun.
3, 2, 1,
These engineers devised a pumpkin tossing device in order to get their organic objects into the compost.
What we're trying to show here is that when you throw your waste away, you should compost it. And a favorite type of waste at this time of year is the old jack-o'-lantern. So we're going to demonstrate how properly to prepare the pumpkin for composting by ensuring that it's in small enough pieces that it decomposes rapidly.
You may prefer a more efficient method. Just lay out a piece of newspaper or brown paper, collect your food scraps, roll it up, and toss it in the composter. Bins like these are becoming the composting item of choice for many Metro Vancouver residents. Through 2011, most regional municipalities will be accepting scrapings from dinner dishes, peels and scraps from meal preparation, plant materials and soiled paper in bins like these. Composting instead of trashing. One easy way to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, that's it for today's show, and we hope you found it a breath of fresh air.
Innovation and consideration for others. That's what will lead the way in reducing air pollutants and its impact on air quality and climate change.
If you got any comments for our show, then you can call us at 604-436-6794 or email us at sustainableregion@metrovancouver.org. For the Sustainable Region, I'm Vanessa Timmer.
And I'm Dagmar Timmer. Thanks for watching.